Hello everyone, I'm Joshua Whittaker from Park Life Sport, and today I'm going to be bringing you the England vs Wales preview podcast. Today I'm going to be joined by Park Life Sport rugby correspondent Rob Rees, who will be representing Wales, and freelance rugby journalist Tom Bradshaw, who will be representing England. Right, so let's kick it off straight away by going into the team news. Danny Kerr is in the England team for Ben Youngs, who is out with a knee injury. This means Danny Kerr will become England's most capped scrum half of all time on Saturday when he plays against Wales. Also, Jonathan Joseph replaces Ben Teo in the team, which is a controversial one. Jonathan Joseph has won all 4 of his previous encounters against Wales, so superstition? Tom, what do you think?
For me, the dropping of Ben Teo is a slightly strange one. I think he didn't do anything wrong in particular against Italy. I thought Ben Teo trucked the ball up really well, and in actual fact he was probably the way he played was one of the reasons that enabled England to score as many tries as they did. He was used very much as the crash ball carrier to get Italy, to get the opposition on the back foot, and from the crisp way in which he set the ball up at the rucks, England were then able to get the ball away swiftly and to bring their what you might call their faster, fleet of foot three-quarter line into play. So actually, I think Teo did a really good job in terms of giving England an attacking platform against Italy. But clearly, maybe this is an indication that Eddie Jones is going to take a slightly different attacking ploy when it comes to playing Wales. You mentioned too about the statistic there of Jonathan Joseph always being on the winning team against Wales. So yeah, he'll be a player, I think, with plenty of confidence playing against the Welsh, and that could be one of the reasons behind his inclusion.
Well, Warren Gatland actually suggested this change midweek, suggesting that Eddie Jones was going to play Joseph instead of Teo, and it has come true. So you never know. Maybe a bit of reverse psychology there from Warren Gatland and Eddie Jones. But on to the Wales team. There's no changes. How do you feel about this, Rob?
I think as expected. I don't think after the last week's performance against Scotland that we were expecting many changes, if any. I mean, George North and Hallam Amos were coming back into fitness. Perhaps that was going to be a factor for Gatland. But I don't think anyone warranted being dropped. I mean, Josh Adams, ex-Cinderford player, he was outstanding and great to see on his full debut. So I think it's going to be an exciting game against England. Both sides are going to set out to play attacking rugby. And I think the way that Wales are lining up, we're going to look to attack, especially against Jonathan Joseph. He's obviously less of a defensive centre than Ben Teo. So I think perhaps I could play into Wales' hands.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a very different game to what we're used to here, with such a different Wales squad going into the game. Looking at the last 3 matches between these teams in the Six Nations tournament, they have been very, very close, all separated by under 5 points. So could this year be the year that Wales just nick it off them?
I mean, it could come down to one missed tackle, even leading to a try. I think Wales are probably in the best position we have been since the Rugby World Cup, when was the last time we actually beat England, and that was at Twickenham. So I think we're in a good position to overturn the losing streak.
Yeah, I do hope so, Rob. Jamie Roberts has described the Wales-England fixture as like a game of chess. What do you think about that, Tom?
I don't think there are going to be any bishops playing for either team, but I think I know what he means. I think both teams, from an attacking perspective, maybe in the opening week of the Six Nations, maybe outperformed their expectations. I mean, most teams, England would usually expect to put a ton of points on Italy, and in the end they did. But I think that the ease towards the end with which they were scoring tries maybe surprised a few people. Certainly there was a surprise in how free-scoring Wales were against Scotland. And I think you mentioned, well, it was mentioned earlier by both of you, I think how maybe we could have a really attacking game at the weekend. I think it could maybe go the other way. I think both teams are going to be so wary and so mindful of how effective the other team has been in attack in the opening weekend, that you could see maybe in training it's been quite a defensive mindset that both teams will have adopted. So in terms of Jamie Roberts' remark about a chess match, maybe he anticipates things being a little bit more cagey, with both teams kind of just testing each other a little bit in the opening phases of the game. Maybe we won't see the kind of expansiveness that we saw by both teams in attack in the opening weekend. I think just to echo a point that Rob made there, I thought Josh Adams was really was terrific for Wales in his opening game. I thought his kicking was really smart, his defensive work was really good, and I think However, for a player like him and for a player like Patchell, so both inexperienced at this stage, at this level, I think stepping into the Twickenham cauldron away from home, massive game, second game of the Six Nations, with a lot of expectation on their shoulders. I think that could be a lot of weight on them, and whether they sink or swim could be a determining factor in which way the game goes.
Yeah, that's something that Eddie Jones also mentioned about Reece Patchell. He said the pressure on him is going to be enormous, and it's whether he has the bottle to handle it. Patchell, I used to ball boy down the Cardiff Blues, and I used to be kicking the balls to Patchell before every game, and he used to get quite frustrated at me when they didn't quite go near him. So let's see if he can keep a cool head for this one on the weekend, and hopefully he can handle the pressure from Jonathan Joseph. But another thing you've got to take into account is the injury list that Wales have. How do you feel about Wales's injuries?
Obviously, they've hit us massively and ruined perhaps Scotland's game plan to an extent. But I think it's a new era for Welsh rugby. We tried a more expansive game plan in the autumn. It didn't work out as well as we perhaps hoped. But I think being forced to make so many changes and have that youthful exuberance come through, I think it'll be a good thing for us. And I think it'll test England a bit more than usual. Perhaps it'll give them something to think about.
Forcing them to play almost a different game with so many changes. Jamie Roberts believes that a Wales victory at Twickenham is one of the greatest things a Welsh rugby player can experience. And I think you have got to take into account the Wales and England fixture. It is always a big one. Especially when you compare it to some of the other games. Maybe if you look at the Italy-England game last weekend, there's a lot more going into this one. There's a lot more at stake, especially in terms of reputation.
Yeah, there's a lot more history at stake. There's a lot more pride perhaps in it, in being able to say you've beaten England or Wales, depending on who you play for. Obviously, Wales be looking for the ultimate scalp down at Twickenham. It's not a victory that comes often, but obviously for a lot of the players, it's the first time that they'll have a chance at defeating England down at their own backyard. So it'll be an exciting experience, an adventure for a lot of the players.
Yeah, all the other home nations want to knock England's block off, especially at Twickenham. So for, whether you're Welsh, whether you're Scottish, whether you're Irish, if you come to London, you want to go away with what Rob says there, the prize scalp of beating England. So England know that. They know that everybody else in the British Isles who's not English will want Wales to win. But I think to a certain extent, Eddie Jones has developed an aura in the England squad that almost embraces that. I think under the previous head coach, Stuart Lancaster was very much about, we need to respect the grassroots, we respect the opposition. We're not going to be too arrogant in our approach, and we're going to be very humble, and that's a fair approach. But what Eddie Jones has brought back is a little bit more of a kind of edge to England. They're a bit more aggressive now.
He's given him a real bite.
Yeah, absolutely, that bite, and I think in a way a bite that benefits from having that sort of aggressive nation visiting them to play them at Twickenham. They kind of relish, I think, that confrontation now.
I think he also knows that the pressure is on Wales. As he mentioned with the Reece Patchell and the younger players, the pressure is really going to be on them.
Having said that, though, I think there is a certain amount of pressure that comes through England being, I think, undefeated at home under Eddie Jones. So that's a record, obviously, he'll want to preserve. It's a record that's not going to last forever. There's never a good time to lose a record like that. But there's a certain amount of pressure on England to keep that record intact. Right,
to finalise it, guys, can I have your predictions for the final score?
In keeping with the close matchups recently, I'm going to be going Wales by less than 7.
Wales by less than 7. Tom?
Well, it's going to be very boring, and you've got the Welshman back in the Welsh team and the Englishman back in the English team. But I actually think there's probably not a great deal between the two teams. But I think home advantage will ultimately be decisive for England. Also, I think actually England have got, despite their injuries as well, because we discussed the Welsh injuries earlier, but England have got their own share of injuries as well. But I think, as was shown, for example, through a display of people like Sam Simmons last week, England have got people who've come in and have fronted up. And as a consequence, I think there's still enough depth in that English team, especially when they're playing at home, to win. And I actually think win probably by more than a converted try. So I'd probably say more than 7, less than 14.
Thank you, Rob and Tom. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Let us know your predictions on Twitter. Mention us at parklife_sport. Same for Instagram. And I'm your host, Josh Whittaker, logging out but not logging off.